Hey kids, we're a couple of annoyed grunt boys, and this is the 138th Simpsons podcast. That's right, we're the podcast that explores the American animated sitcom The Simpsons from seasons 11 and beyond, and the newest episodes when they're available. Why do we do it like that? Well, we know that there are plenty of other podcasts out there that explore the golden age of The Simpsons, that being seasons 1 through 10, and we want to find the gold in the newer episodes. Also, an entity known as the Wheel of Random has trapped us and forced us to watch the show in such a manner. I say we because I'm just one annoyed grunt boy and I can't do this on my own, so with me, as always, is the other annoyed grunt boy,
Craig. Good day, Steven.
Hello.
Let's not bring up the weather. We know it's hot.
Yeah.
Instead, should we just bring up what we were doing when this episode aired?
Yes, so we are talking about an episode today that premiered in October of 2020. Why, it's October 4th, 2020 to be exact. What were the annoyed grunt boys up to way back then?
Well, the episode that aired that week, which we always drop on Thursdays, would have been our 89th episode, season 28, episode 16, Camp Crest Year. But then I looked just below that, and the episode that aired October 1st was actually the season premiere, season 32, episode 1, Undercover Burns. So I think it's interesting on what we thought of that episode, the season premiere, and then coming into the episode 2. So with that, Steve, I'm not going to actually play a clip, but you and I off pod listened to a little bit like what we thought of Undercover Burns, and I think we enjoyed it. It was Mr. Burns goes undercover as a Fred at the nuclear power plant and became friends with Homer and the gang. Burns implements all sorts of amenities to improve his employees' lives, but a jealous Smithers plots to bring the old bitter Burns back. Things I remember from this, of course, is we actually used something from the episode to put up on TeePublic. So there was one of our shirts, the Tyranny is Job 1.
Yes, and I also remember that Phil Rosenthal made a guest appearance on the show, which we thought was fun. And yeah, I just remember it being a welcome introduction to season 32, and we were excited about a new season. This was like the last season before we started reviewing the newest episodes, so this is kind of big, because we usually do the season premieres.
Right, we did premieres and finales.
Mm-hmm.
But we were also, we were knee-deep in pandemic, and in a month away of worried if Trump was going to be president again, and here we are, Steve. Well, there's no pandemic, but we're still worried about Trump being president again.
Yeah, it's, what do they say? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah. We'll probably say not a political podcast, so I feel like we will be saying that a lot in this week's episode. But just to know that, like, we started off season 32, like, a lot of joy because, there wasn't a lot of new things airing at this time, but at least with the animation, it was already done, and we had a new episode that, because of the pandemic. It was a welcome back. So I'm curious to see, reviewing this episode as season 32, off to a great start with 2 episodes that we like in a row. Who knows?
Yeah, will we enjoy this one as much as we enjoyed this season premiere? I don't know, but let's continue our time back in 2020. Craig, what was the number 1 movie in the box office?
I'm going to assume that there was probably no big movies, right? Because of the pandemic. But here we are with Tenet. Oh, I guess that was a big movie. But it wasn't, though. It was only select theaters, right?
Yeah. And wasn't this another one of those movies that, like, kind of went to streaming services relatively short after it was in the theaters?
Well, because it was Nolan who was pissed. Is like, no, you got to watch this in the theaters. But like, dude, Nolan, there's a pandemic, and he didn't want it to go streaming services. I don't think it was.
You might be right. Yeah, I think you're correct.
And by all accounts, I haven't seen Tenet, and I've seen most of Nolan's stuff, but I feel like this is kind of his most controversial film, as in like most people think it's not good.
Yeah, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast, but removing the Batman series, I think that most Christopher Nolan movies are great the first time you see him, and you're like, oh my god, that was so good. And then time passes, and you think about what you saw, and it gets less good, and then you watch it again, and it's like, oh, this is kind of dumb. But the first time is such a revelatory experience. You're like, oh my gosh, it's nothing like I've ever seen except for that other Christopher Nolan movie.
Do you think Tenet would have been better if Mr. Bongos was in it from Oppenheimer?
Oh, yes, America's Good Boy. I think he would be better.
Yeah, every movie needs a Jack Quaid.
That's right.
I'm in the summer of Jack Quaid because, I got The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And then also he voices Superman in My Adventures with Superman. And then, in a few weeks, probably the new season of Star Trek Lower Decks. So
yeah, I watched the first episode of the second season of My Adventures with Superman. It's great, and I'm excited to continue with that. I really want to start The Boys, and Lower Decks is a great show. Yeah, Jack Quaid, it's one of my favorite Nepo babies.
One of the greatest, even though maybe some of his family members are maybe a little off on the deep end there. But hey, aren't we all, Steve? Don't we all have those crazy boomer relatives?
I mean, I don't think that Meg Ryan is that crazy. But yeah, we all have those wacky relatives.
No, I'm talking about his uncle, Jack Ryan.
Oh, yes. He was on that Hunt for Red October.
Yeah. He either looks like Alec Baldwin or John Krasinski or Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Chris Pine, Ben Affleck. I think that's it. I think it's all the Jack Ryans.
Yeah, but whoever it is, my dad liked him a lot.
Well, Steve, we did have music in the time of COVID, and I'm wondering, was the Hot 100 the same from the episode we watched with Undercover Burns? I'm not sure.
Maybe similar, but the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100 was Explosive because it was Dynamite by BTS.
Didn't you say some negative things about BTS, Steve?
Maybe.
I'm trying to get you canceled.
I know, but I don't want to be.
Okay.
I love behind the scenes, as I assume that's what that stands for.
BTS, that's the South Korean pop band, right?
Yeah. Not built to spill.
Not bacon, tomato, sausage sandwich.
Ooh, that sounds good.
All right, well, what the hot rock alternative was? What was that?
Why, that was Mood by 24 Golden featuring Ian Dior, which I'm pretty sure was in the season 32 premiere because I remember not knowing how to say 24 Golden featuring Ian Dior because the letters don't look right.
Or Mood.
Right, Mood. What's a mood? Is that a thing a cow has?
Yeah. You got the D, the mood. The D is the dick of the cow, the mood.
Yes, dick of the cow.
Steve, I hope you know the country song.
I hope I do too, because it was I Hope by Gabby Barrett.
Hey, finally, out of these country songs, a name that actually sounds like a country star's name.
Yeah, Gabby Barrett.
Steve? You never bring me any flowers on this podcast. If you were, what flower would you bring me? And also, what's the number one hot dance electric hot song?
Why, it's Roses. But of course, much like the flowers I gave you, they're the I'm in Beck remix from my own town, St. John.
Steve, I think you were a little drunk typing St. John there.
Maybe I was, but also maybe the artist was too, because, yeah, it's capital S, capital A, capital I, capital N, lowercase t, capital J, no O, capital H, capital N.
Huh.
St. John.
And this is the I'm in Beck remix?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm into Beck too. Are you into Beck?
Yeah, Midnight Vulture is a great album.
Hey, Steve, as of this record, it's Beck's birthday. Happy birthday, Beck.
Happy birthday, Beck. I feel like people forgot about Beck, but it's later stuff is also very good.
Yeah. I might be one of those people, Steve. He was my favorite artist.
Yeah.
I stopped listening to. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. I just,
That's exactly what I'm saying. I do the same thing, where I forgot about Beck, but every now and then he'll show up on my Spotify. I'm like, oh, this is good. I like it.
Yeah. I've been recently just listening to a lot of Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Listen to Tom Petty.
Tom Petty's great.
Yeah. But Steve, we're not talking Petty. We're not talking Beck. We're probably talking about what we all think about as men, the Roman Empire.
That's right. Because this week we're talking about Carumbus, in which, at a museum exhibit of ancient Rome, Marge and Homer get into an argument about Homer's lack of ambition, prompting the curator to regale them with his tale about a poor farmer's son. Alrighty, let's give this episode a watch, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Today we're talking about I, Carumbus, the second episode of the 32nd season. It originally aired on October 4th, 2020. It is episode 686 in the show's run. Your nerd code is ZABF18. It was written by Cesar Mazariegos, directed by Rob Oliver, and your showrunner is Matt Selman.
All right, Cesar. He's currently a writer, producer for The Simpsons, as of this record.
It's true.
He's worked as a staff writer and a story editor, even an executive story editor. Don't forget, he voiced Grandpa Baby in Season 32's episode, The Last Bar Fighter, and was the rapper Violencia Gigante in Season 35's Clan of the Caveman, which, do we deem that the best episode of Season 35?
We may have deemed it one of the best episodes that we've ever seen in this modern age.
All right. Look, he's written 6 episodes. And the short, When Billy Met Lisa. No, not when Billie Jean King met Lisa, but when Billie Eilish met Lisa. Billie Jean King meeting Lisa. That would have happened probably during the Tracy Ullman shorts.
Yes.
For her popularity then.
Mm-hmm.
This is his first credited episode, Steve, and the 6 we've reviewed. So, Steve, we've reviewed everything that he's written so far.
Wow. Is he probably the first writer that we've, I mean, I guess there's some who have only written one episode, but for staff writers, I think this is the first one that we've, done their whole line of work.
Yeah, I think him and Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
That's right.
I mean, 6 isn't that much to brag about, though.
Yeah, but he is an up-and-coming writer, and I'm sure we'll see more of him in Season 36.
Yeah, the second one he did was A Serious Flanders Parts 1 and 2 from Season 33, so we got 2 episodes back-to-back. Or they liked it so much, they said, yeah, you can have 2 episodes out of this script. The Series of Flanders was kind of a parody on the Fargo TV series.
Mm-hmm.
And, do we consider it canon? No, because it's a different universe. It's not the real Simpsons universe, right?
Right.
And then after that, he did Not It, which is Stephen King It parody, but it's a whole episode and not just a treehouse segment. So that's really not part of canon. And then was Homer's Crossing from Season 35, the first episode. And that's when Homer becomes a crossing guard.
Yeah.
That one is canon. And then Night of the Living Wage, which was Season 35. That was...
It is I would say that it is canon, but it is also very much a Bear parody.
Right. The Bear. The TV show The Bear.
The Bear.
The funniest show on TV.
Such a good comedy.
You laugh every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I laugh and I'm like, wow, that plot is really developing, especially in this 3rd season.
Wow, it's so cinematic, just like my favorite sitcoms.
Exactly. Just wish there were more flashbacks.
I mean, John Cena's in an episode, so it's got to be great.
Exactly. He's hilarious, so.
But here we are, Steve. Here we are with finishing off Caesar's run. Well, I'm sure you'll have episodes this coming season, but...
Yeah. This is also a kind of a monumental episode because it is the last episode that they did before all the actors agreed that the non-white characters would be played by people of color as a result of the George Floyd protests which were happening at the time.
Wow, it was the George Floyd is what they decided on?
I mean, I think there was a long discussion, and I think it probably stemmed initially from the Apu documentary and, just in general. But I think that after the George Floyd protests and just the general Black Lives Matter movement in general at the time, I think a lot of shows, especially animated shows, kind of re-looked at the way that things worked. Because also at this time, I know that the Netflix show Big Mouth also mixed up their staff and hired, actually, speaking of...
The Bear.
The Bear. Iowa Dibry was cast on that show, replacing Jenny Slate, who was playing Missy on the show. So, yeah.
Well, Steve, change is always good, right?
Sure.
Well, Steve, should we just get into the episode?
Indeed.
All right. Well, it begins, as it always does, at the Springfield History Museum, which features an exhibit on ancient Rome, blood, honor, and vases. Was this before that internet meme asking dudes how often they think about Rome?
I was wondering just how long it would take us to get there.
Well, right away. So we just have to say, just to get out of the way, The Simpsons predicted it.
That's right.
All right.
I never think about the Roman Empire, by the way.
Yeah, you think of the Roman Polanski Empire.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You really need to stop thinking about him, Steve.
All right, I'll just focus on my other favorite director, Woodrow Allen.
And your favorite former president, Donald Trump.
That's right. Former and future.
Yeah. And maybe throw in Bill Clinton in there, too.
Yeah, he's good.
He's on the list.
I'm sure he's on many lists, yes. Speaking of kind of weird things with children, I noticed something. Outside of the museum, the Springfield History Museum, we see a bunch of people standing outside there. And we got Jasper Beardley standing by himself. We got the Lovejoys, Helen and Timothy. There's some older people from the retirement castle. We have the Princes, Barton and his parents. We've got the Hibberts. We've got Burns and Smithers. We've got the Barflies and, rest in peace, Larry. Then there's, on the right there, Rainier Wolfcastle, but he's standing with Database. And I just don't know why they're hanging out.
Let's say maybe it was like a Make-A-Wish. Maybe Database is dying and his Make-A-Wish is to meet his favorite actor.
That's very possible. Or, it could be like a Big Brother situation. But it's also weird because it seems that Database's shirt is untucked, which is not normally a part of his outfit.
Well, you know why, Steve? Because he used promo code AnnoyedGrunt at untuckit.com. That's right. Get your shirts, men. Untuck it.
Yeah, get those shirts extra long, extra short. I don't know what they do, but they're right.
I don't know. If you go to untuckit.com and look at their shirts, they're very expensive, so...
They must be worth it. And again, save 10% with offer code AnnoyedGrunt. Inside, Bart looks up the skirts of the mannequins depicting Roman soldiers, while Lisa is taking notes, remarking how ionic the columns are. Homer yawns, using a statue with an outstretched hand to scratch his ass, and he comments on other ways he could waste his weekend, which causes Marge to question his ambition.
If I wanted to be bored on a Saturday, I would have signed up for that management training program at work. At least there I know where the good toilets are.
Wait, what training program?
Oh, it's some dumb career development thing at the plant, so you can become a manager, have more responsibility. Who needs that trap?
But we could really use more money. You've had the same entry-level job your whole career.
Hey, don't knock entry-level, Marge. At least I don't have to wear long-sleeve shirts, go to webinars, and supervise a bunch of entry-level losers with their short-sleeve shirts.
Homer, I can't be the only one in this family who wants more for us.
I want more! I just don't want to do anything to earn it.
For once in your life, would it kill you to show a little ambition?
Ambition is indeed a timeless source of conflict.
A lost senior! Where is your family?
As a matter of fact, I just curated an exhibit about a Roman family, torn asunder by the hunger for more. The life of Odysseus the Wide.
Sometimes Homer's right. Staying in a lower or entry level sometimes is nice.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I was thinking watching this how, this is kind of in the beginning or like when we're in the depths of the pandemic and a lot of us were like staying at home or re-examining like our relationship to work. And I gotta say, like, I agree with you. I'm with Homer. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but also work isn't the only thing. And sometimes pushing yourself too hard, kind of pointless.
Are you saying that that happened to you?
I mean, yeah, both. Yeah, I think that I realized that, working for a company and, pushing yourself to make them more money when you yourself don't get that much more money isn't really kind of worth your time.
I agree.
Normally we agree with Marge, but in this case, I'm on Homer's side.
Look, they could obviously afford their lifestyle. So, if you can afford that lifestyle, why not?
Yeah, just live your life.
Spend more time with family and friends and not at work.
Yeah, work is dumb.
We're true socialists, Steve.
That's right.
We got a voice actor there playing the curator. Steve, that is a Monty Python star himself. That's right. Michael Palin. Wanda Fish called himself. Fish called Wanda himself. Now, was he Wanda? He was the...
Was he the fish?
I don't think he was. He wasn't John Cleese. He wasn't Jamie Lee Curtis. He certainly wasn't Kevin Kline.
Nobody's Kevin Kline except for him.
I think he was Michael Palin.
I think you're right.
He was Ken. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I remember my parents really liked that movie, but I think when it came out, they weren't I wasn't allowed to watch it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's adult themed. Maybe I just would understand it.
Yeah, I think that this is one that I have not seen, but I always conflated it with Soap Dish for some reason, probably because they came out at the same time, and they both had like similar looking posters where it was just like a lot of actors who I recognized but not sure what from in 1988, and it seemed kind of sexy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because, Michael Palin's in it.
That's right.
But he's also in this, Steve. And that means if we ever do a podcast about movies, we could definitely watch A Fish Called Wanda.
Or any Monty Python film.
Well, I have a little factoid about Michael Palin himself, Steve, about this episode. He said it was lovely to be asked, and that he looked forward to seeing how his character looked after recording. To be asked to do sort of a guest appearance on The Simpsons is pretty much like going to Buckingham Palace, except not quite as funny. Palin was quoted to say, referencing himself being knighted the previous year, "It's all done very quickly, efficiently, and you are shoehorned into the show." So, that's good.
Yeah, that's good. It sounds like it's an easy experience, too. Like, you don't have to, like, spend all day waiting. You just kind of record, and then you just see what happens.
And now it's probably a lot easier. They probably just put you up on Zoom, and you record in an hour, and then you're done.
Yeah, nice and easy. Maybe we'll have more guest stars because of that.
You mean our podcast or The Simpsons?
Both. Why not?
Because we can't afford to pay guests, Steve.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, back to The Simpsons. Seeing the exhibit, Marge thinks that perhaps an historical allegory could help her and Homer work out their issues. And Homer is once again thankful that fighting in public has gotten them free therapy from strangers. The curator tells him that ambition drove the Roman Empire and eventually tore it apart.
So we flash back to ancient Rome, where a young Odysseus, played by Homer, as a boy, is son of a poor farmer, played by Abe, who has a great deal of land, but no ox to plow it. So without the beast to do the work, Odysseus is forced to pull the plow himself, which chisels him into quite the Italian beefcake. Now grown and buff, long flowing hair, Odysseus continues to work on the field until his father comes to him with great news. They finally have enough money to purchase an ox. But how was this money required? Well, of course, by selling Odysseus into slavery.
That's the way of the world. I recently learned something that might be obvious. An ox is not a kind of animal. It's just a bull that's working.
Oh.
Like, I always thought that like, it was a species. Like, there was it was like a specific kind of animal. But no, it's just a working bull.
So you could call the bailiff from Night Court Ox Shannon?
Yes, exactly. Okay. He's working.
I guess I'll agree with you. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's something that my wife discovered, and I was like, oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, as Odysseus' father bids him a arrivederci sucker, Romans Louis and Legs chain his neck and pull him to a life of servitude. On his way to Rome, he meets his new work friends, Moe, Barney, Lenny, and Carl. They're stunned by the local sights, the crowds, the noise, the grand scale of pornographic graffiti. And then the slaves are led to Fat Tony, who gives them the honor of being hacked to death on the field of battle. Lenny says that they're not gladiators, and Tony replies that they'll never be with that attitude.
I like the narration of the pornographic graffiti. I feel like we have a big issue with graffiti. I mean, most major cities do. Mm-hmm. Why not make it pornographic? Then everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah, when it's just your, like, weird tag that I can't read, like, is that an R or a P or a 7? Like, I can't read it. So at least give me something to look at.
Yeah, get some boobies or some weenies.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fun for the whole family to watch.
That's right. And young kids can learn about the birds and the bees.
Right. Well, Odysseus is led to the battlefields of the Colosseum, where Ken Brockman introduces Wolfus Rain as the Saxon who is always axing. So the crowd cheers at the fierce warrior, and Brockman then welcomes in the shaking tunic hailing from, who knows, that guy, Odysseus. So the crowd boos and throws fruits, vegetables, and pottery at Odysseus.
So we have Wolfus leaping with his axe, attacking Odysseus, who defends himself with his shield, meekly saying, "Someone's in here." Wolfus forces the shield away and slices Odysseus' blade in half. Odysseus backs away in fear, and as the museum curator narrates, he may not have known much, but Odysseus did know how to be an ox. Again, like he's an ox because he's a working animal. He headbutts Wolfus, knocking him to the ground, and then grabs his legs and pulls him like a plow, dragging his face in the ground, leaving a bloody trail.
In stands, Luigi sees the carnage and prays to Juno, mother of Apollo. Odysseus offers to call the fight a tie, but as he pulls up his opponent, he finds that Wolfus Rain's face has been eroded, exposing the skull. Very gruesome scene.
Very graphic.
Yeah. Obesius is the victor, which garners the attention of both Gordius Antonius, which of course is Fat Tony, and his daughter Majora, which of course is Marge.
All hail our new champion, Mr. Plow himself, Obesius!
That chiseled bumpkin just killed my prized psychopath. Feed him to the hippos.
No, Father. Look how the crowd loves him. That hunky rube could put a lot of tokas in the seats.
Majora, you have quite the mind for the family business. The man-ox will live to fight another day.
What came first, Steve? The position of Homer being the ox plow or that joke of Mr. Plow himself?
I wonder if they're like in the writer's room and like they're like, ox. What do oxes do? They plow. Like, I'm plowing my teacher's wife. And then he's thinking about plowing, and then it's like, oh, wait, Homer was Mr. Plow.
It's a great callback joke.
It is. Very nice. So, saved from the hippo pit, Obesius steals a glance from Majora and continues to battle up the ranks of gladiators, besting other warriors such as Dedrick Tatum and Sideshow Bob, who he happens to slice in half.
Now, is that grosser than the Rainier Wolfcastle death?
I don't know. Like, if it were me, if I were to play victim to either of those, I'd much rather be sliced in half than have my face, like, ground into the ground until it's skull. Like, that just sounds so much worse.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
Yeah,
feel like you
I mean-
probably only realize you're sliced in half for like a couple seconds and you're dead.
Yeah, and I think you'd be so stunned to look over and see your other half.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's me.
I know you're always stunned when you look at your other half, too, and you're like, she married me?
Oh, yeah, that's always a stunner. I'm like, why?
Obviously not for money.
No. Or sense of humor. Or looks. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's your keen sense of fashion.
There it is, yeah. I can wear a shirt. So Obesius's fame grew as women wanted him and men wanted to be killed by him. He still yearned for that which he longed for, Majora. Obesius writes out, I heart you, using his victim's body parts, an eyeball for the eye, a heart for the heart, and a trail of intestines in the shape of the letter U. And Majora is smitten.
So in the cell of the slaves, Barney engraves Semper Fratis into the wall, meaning forever brothers. He wonders if they'll ever be free again, and Mo responds that the only way they'll leave is in chunks. We then see Raphael stuff severed limbs in a chute, complaining that they'll need to cut the dead into smaller pieces. Obesius then offers a sacred pact to the gods. If any of them are ever free, he'll do everything in his power to liberate the rest of them. So he chants to freedom, and his fellow slaves all join in, putting their hands in a circle. Raphael joins them using a cut-off head, but when his joke isn't well received, he complains that the chunks are no fun.
Aw, I like Raphael. He's having some fun. As Obesius gathers his hay for bedding, Majora pays him a visit. He wonders what she's doing there, and she says that she has to keep an eye on her father's investments. She then adds that she likes the way Obesius's pecs dance after he kills a guy. So the two embrace and participate in coitus, and Jasper, hanging from the wall with his arms shackled, watches with horny delight. Obesius trains the other slaves with his expert fighting skills when Gordius arrives with some shocking news.
Swish and slush and spin and kick and slice that belly and hello guts.
It would appear that one of you lowly gladiators has impregnated my daughter. Tell me who laid with her, and the rest of you will be spared the lash.
I had Sexicus.
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 I had Sexicus. You jerks! You knew I liked her!
We were covering for you, jackass.
Oh, right. Sir, I'm in love with your daughter. If you must punish someone, punish me.
Place his head on the beheading block. Which is also the unlocking block. Rise, for you are now free.
Woohoo!
To marry my daughter.
Go!
The I Am Spartacus bit, pretty good.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I also like that the chopping block is also the unlocking block.
Yeah. Hey, they're thrifty that way, right? They don't need two things to do. They don't need one thing to do one job. It could be one thing to do two jobs.
Yeah, Alden Brown would be proud. He doesn't like, tools like melon ballers and stuff like that. Like, I've seen, like, potato eye removers. That's pretty dumb.
Yeah, that is really dumb.
Yeah. We're that OXO brand, which makes some good stuff, but also a lot of unnecessary stuff.
Yeah. Well, and Odysseus lets out a nervous chuckle, saying, Majora, what could be more liberating than marriage? So, as the curator tells us, the young lovers were wed for all the gods to see. Gortys, wanting Odysseus and Majora to build a life together, gives them the deed to one of his many businesses. And Majora is excited as she has a lot of big ideas, but her father tells the Vestal non-virgin that they must leave the business talk to the men.
Gortys begins his dealings with Odysseus by offering him some slaves on the house. And those slaves just happen to be Odysseus's former friends, Mo, Barney, Lenny, and Carl. Odysseus says that he can't own his friends and remembers his sacred oath, but Majora sees this as an opportunity to take power. And in order to do so, she would have to speak out of her husband's stupid mouth.
My love, you are so noble. To take on the back-breaking work of 4 men, day in, day out, no matter how poor and hungry it shall leave you.
Look, fellas, no one honors oaths more than me. No one. Just give me a little time till we get on our feet, then I'll totally free you. Management thanks you for your patience.
And so, in choosing greed over loyalty, the young couple began their rise to power and their fall from grace.
Odysseus. Not cool, man.
Majora's not that cool either.
No, she's kind of power hungry.
No one's cool, Steve.
No, nobody's cool.
Well, Slave Mo regrets getting Odysseus and Majora a wedding gift. And we see that the gift is good little Gil with a bow on his head. So then we go to 10 years later, but it says X years later, because, the Roman numeral 10 is X on screen there. And Odysseus begins the second act of his life, running the dirty, bloody business given to him by his father-in-law, a laundromat. So the curator then gives us, the viewer, a fun fact relevant to Odysseus' new vocation. In ancient Rome, clothes were washed with ammonia, which is derived from human piss.
Wow.
Yeah.
That means that if I were a Roman soldier, my pants would be squeaky clean. So Majora, along with her 2 children, pay Odysseus a visit at his work. Bartigua, the oldest kid, as played by Bart, asks his father how the whiz-biz is, and Odysseus replies that it is mellow and yellow. After they high-five, Majora asks why the store is closed at noon. Odysseus explains that he and his boys are all peed out. Then there. How is he supposed to make things clean without human waste? Majora complains that Odysseus' business has been failing for a long time, and it's all his fault for phoning it in. Though it's weird that she'd say phoning it in, since the telephone wouldn't be invented for another 2,400 years. Majora tells her husband to figure it out, and Mo and the fellow slaves have an idea to increase ammonia production.
Well, Lenny tells Odysseus to put jugs outside of taverns, and he'll get his Uranus gratis. Free pee, Steve. Homer thinks for a moment, crowdsourcing a streaming service. This is like joke number 2 of much like the Mr. Plow joke.
Yeah.
He claims the idea as his own and then calls himself a genius. So they place the jugs at a nearby watering hole, and after snaking out to enjoy some wine, they feel the urge to tinkle, which causes Odysseus to be flush with liquid assets. This allows him to move his family to a more prosperous side of town, which is presumably to the east, because a song reminiscent of the Jefferson theme song plays, which translates to "We're climbing on up, out of suburbia,
climbing on up,
to an excellent villa in the Palatine. We're climbing on up, out of the Subra,
climbing on up.
We'll finally drink Falernian wine."
And so all these fancy Roman words are thanks to Mike Duncan, who is a history author and podcast host. He hosts The History of Rome, and he was hired for this episode as a Roman history consultant.
Do you think the Simpsons writers will ever hire us to be a Simpsons history consultant?
Probably not.
Oh, man.
But maybe if they need us to talk about, our favorite French fry rankings, or another thing that we always talk about too much.
Yeah, it was something we talk about a lot. Lawn care. Lawn cares was up there.
Oh, yeah. Maybe if Carol and Omini ever has a Full House podcast, we can be their expert historian.
Oh, and also, if they ever need someone to trash the office ladies, they know where to call.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're good at. So Odysseus and Majora now have a new home, financial security, and slaves to do their bidding. Odysseus tells Lennius that he is feeling fatigued and asks him to yawn for himself. As Lennius obeys, Mo reminds his master and former fellow slave that they gave him the idea that made him rich, and perhaps it's time to honor the vow that he made and set them free. Odysseus thanks his slave for bringing up the issue and telling him that it's lucky to have friends like him, and he promises to have his accountant crunch the letters, and they'll circle back on it. I love it when business people say circle back on something because it just means no.
Yeah, Steve, do you want to go to the bar after this record with me?
Oh, that's a great idea. Let's circle back on it on the end, see where we're at, and we'll revisit that idea at a different point.
You know, when you just said Odysseus tells Lennius to yawn for him, I had to yawn. Are you susceptible when people say yawn, like you have to yawn? Or like when someone yawns, you have to yawn as well? Yeah, that always happens to me.
You just saying the word yawn like three times has made me yawn.
I'm doing it again. It's not because we're bored. It's boring. Well, maybe it is. Well, it's so weird. It's one of those things. I remember like hearing about that. You mentioned the Y word that it just triggers. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard it say if that happens to you, then you're not a sociopath. Like if you say the Y word around people, or you do it and they don't do it, they're a sociopath or something like that. Isn't that true?
I mean, that kind of makes sense because that like means that they're so self-involved. They have no it lacks a sense of empathy, because I feel like when you hear the Y word and you react to it, you're imagining yourself in that person's position and you're like relating to them as a human being. Because, we all get tired from time to time and you're like, oh, that person's tired like I'm tired. But if you're self-involved and a sociopath, you would be so self-involved that you wouldn't think about that. So yeah, that makes sense.
If we ever do a live show, we just should start off live show with the Y word and see who out there is not crazy.
I really think that if we ever had a live show, we wouldn't need help making them yawn.
That's true. Well, outside of a building of worship, young Bartigula chisels Il Bartus, or, IL Bart VS, which is an act of graffiti, while inside Majora feels inspired to find yet further power for Odysseus.
And now, let us thank Lord Jupiter for a bountiful harvest by draining the blood of this baby goat.
Oh, these seats suck. Can't even see the entrails from here.
Well, they save all the best seats for the senators. What if you became a senator? Think about how much more respected we'd be.
I don't know. It sounds like a lot of work. Sitting there all day, listening, voting on stuff with my thumb.
But think of the perks. You'll get invited to fancier orgies. The kinds with women.
They have those?
And with that, Odysseus marched down the Appian Way to plead his case to the Emperor, confident that he would be welcomed into the Senate.
Ha 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 ha! The P-guy, a senator? That would be an insult to the dignity of this office. Now, if you'll excuse me, Senator Horse and I are going shopping for lewd pottery.
Wait a minute, Steve. There's orgies with women?
I guess.
Huh. Wow.
I mean, I've read about them, and I've seen pictures and maybe some videos, but I didn't know it happened in real life.
I just assumed all the orgies that we went to were just, bro orgies.
Yeah, brogies.
Brogies. But now the story's connecting to the beginning, right? Where Marge is wanting Homer to be a go-getter, much like Majora is wanting Odysseus to be a go-getter and be a senator.
I didn't even know he could skate, or he thought he was from Ottawa.
Steve, I want you to be a senator. Not the hockey kind, though. No, the political kind.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I could do that, yeah.
All right, thanks. When will you be in office?
Let's go for November. I got 6 years free. I can do it.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
Take all the bribes you want. It's fine. No one cares. There's no checks and balances or...
Not anymore. It's all a joke.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm as qualified as any other idiot, except for I'm probably a little less greedy and have some values. I don't know.
Don't worry. It'll get greedy once you get in office.
Oh, I'm sure I will, and I'll be corrupt as them all. So, yay.
Why not?
It's a win-win.
It is. Nothing would happen to you if you do illegal things, Steve. You're fine.
Exactly. I like Quimby going to fuck a horse, presumably. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
So looking at the bust of the Emperor, Odysseus mocks Quimby and his curly bangs. He then worries about Majora's anger and says that he'd do anything to be a senator. Just then, Monty Burns appears from nowhere. He tells Odysseus that as the Emperor's politically adopted son, he's the next in line to the throne, should anything happen to his daddy. Like, for instance, him slipping and falling back first into a knife. Obesius can relate, saying that falling into a knife sucks. But Monty clarifies, informing Obesius that if he kills the Emperor, he'll make him a senator. And so as Obesius wonders what's in it for him, after Burns just explained that he becomes senator, the curator is heard saying that lacta alia est, or the die was cast.
While Emperor Quimby steps into a shadowy room singing a jaunty tune about doing as the Romans do when in Rome, he then sees Obesius in the darkness, and he tells him to leave, stating that it's his private vomitorium, and he's got a belly full of hot figs. All right, can we put the vomitorium into joke jail? Like, any TV show that says, or movies that say, oh, a vomitorium is a place where you go vomit. It is not. A vomitorium is just a passageway situated below or behind a tier of seats in an amphitheater or stadium through which like big crowds can exit rapidly at the end of the event. So that's why it's called a vomitorium, because it's a spewing out of people. It's not a place where rich people eat and purge their food.
Yeah, just because a word sounds like another word doesn't make it the same.
Right. So, joke jail for you, and Cesar, do better next time.
You can do better. But you make a good salad, so...
Yeah. So as the Emperor attempts to puke, Obesius stabs him several times, and as he dies, the Emperor utters his last words, E2, P guy. I have to say that the directing of the scene with like the shadows of the stabbing was very well done. And then even coming out right now into the modern times was very fun.
Yes. So yeah, we do pan out to modern times where the Simpsons are looking at a painting of that grisly murder, and Bart remarks that history rules, and then methinks stabbing Lisa. So Marge takes pity on Majora, saying that Majora wanted her husband to be more ambitious, but not like this. And the curator politely corrects her, and back in the Roman age, the newly appointed senator, Obesius, is ravished by Majora, who wants a kiss from her big stabby go-getter. So the couple fucks, and once again, Jasper hangs from the wall, watching, saying how much he loves his job.
All right, so we jump ahead to another 10 years, where Senator Obesius' power grew vastly, much like his toga size, and Majora revealed in her high status, hosting a lavish Saturnella party.
I love your holiday decorations. It lets those pesky Christians know they aren't going to win the war on Saturnalia.
So, noble slaves, what gift do you desire from your benevolent master?
Our frickin' freedom?
Yeah, well, the thing about that is...
Why do we even bother asking anymore? He's never gonna free us.
This has been building up for a while.
You give slave owners a bad name.
What?
Ugh, what a giant jerk.
Dad, Bartigula's out of control. Look what he's doing to Ptolemaic book guy.
Oh.
Why are you flaying yourself?
Oh!
Why are you flaying yourself?
An interesting paradox. For does free will truly exist? Oh!
Growing up rich and spoiled has turned your son into a monster.
It's not my fault. I never spent any time with him. Oh, my son's a maniac. My daughter's not a son. My slaves hate me for some reason.
Homer's just not having it. He can't do anything, Can't save his old friends. His family hates him.
Can't do anything right.
Nope. Just like us, Steve.
That's right. And that party that Majora was throwing, the Saturnalia party, is a winter festival of ancient Rome, and it was co-opted by early Christians and eventually became Christmas. And it's kind of funny that they're talking about the war on Saturnalia because, there's the whole war on Christmas that people complain about. That isn't really a thing.
Steve, it's because we're taking it away from the Americans. No one can celebrate Christmas anymore, according to your Fox News channel.
That's right, because somebody said happy holidays or put something on a cup or something. I don't know. It's dumb.
I just can't find any Christmas decorations or trees during the year. I'd never hear the music anymore. It's just gone.
Yeah, I heard that malls are shutting down. It's a liberal propaganda just to get rid of Santa Claus.
And the Easter Bunny?
Uh-huh.
Well, let your boomer parents know that I'm on their side.
Alrighty, I will.
No, listeners.
Okay, I was going to say, my boomer parents have boomed.
Yeah, your parents weren't boomers, Steve. They were the greatest generation, or the founding fathers, whatever that was.
Truly, they were actually older than the boomers. So, in fact, they may have been around. My dad might have been around when this episode took place. As Obesius realizes, heavy lies the head that wears a wig of curly bangs. A gust of wind then blows off his wig of curly bangs, And later, Odysseus tells Majora that he's tired and would like to bathe in warm donkey milk and go to sleep. That sounds nice. Majora is indifferent, upset that the emperor didn't attend her party. She adds that she wouldn't be the emperor if not for the actions of Odysseus. So the overweight senator inquires what he should do about it. Kill the emperor? And his question was meant in jest, but Majora states that he should, saying that he could use the present that she got for him, a brand new knife.
You're sure that's a knife and not a sex toy, Steve?
Tomato, tomato, I say.
So Odysseus asks what more Majora could possibly want, pointing out that they started from the bottom and now they're one rung from the top. A natural stop.
It's like Drake.
You're also a fan of Drake. You like Roman Polanski, Woody Allen, Drake, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and the rest. Jared from Subway.
Of course, yeah.
So he wonders if Majora will ever be satisfied, and she sarcastically apologizes for her ambition, reminding her husband that power comes to those who take it. Feeling defeated, Odysseus walks away, allowing Mo to enjoy the warm donkey milk bath.
It's kind of funny because there isn't really a joke there. It's just Mo in the tub saying milk, 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 milk. But I still enjoy it.
There's not a joke there. What is this? Sebastian Maniscalco stand-up routine? It's not a joke there.
Yeah, I like it. You knocked him down a peg. He deserves it. How does he sell so many tickets? I don't get it.
It's just like a weird tangent, but like his stand-up is just his delivery. There's no jokes. It's just It's like it's perfect boomer humor too. It's like I saw a guy wearing swim trunks, but they were so big. It's like he's wearing slacks. Like that's the joke,
right? And like the people in the audience were like, "I've seen things like that too." Here's $40.
Yeah. That's like the cheapest probably tickets.
Yeah. This for the nosebleeds, I guess. Man, not funny. So during a chariot race, Emperor Burns praises the Roman Empire, hoping that it lasts forever in one strange form or another. He then goes to take a sip from his chalice, but stops, realizing that one can't be too careful these days. He calls for a taster, and a shirtless and kind of good-looking Smithers sips from the cup, and soon discovers that he's been poisoned. Odysseus witnesses this and is shocked. He says to Majora, "You didn't," to which she replies, "You wouldn't."
So the emperor vows to find the perpetrator and crush him like a... But before he could finish, an infected Smithers sways in sickness, knocking over a pillar, which crashes Mr. Burns, causing his brain to shoot out of his mouth. And then it goes down, and then a lion sniffs it and just eats it. Is that how that works? Like, if you get knocked over, your brain just comes out of your mouth?
I assume so.
Should we test it? Should we drop a column on you?
I mean, yeah.
It would be an ionic death, Steve, if a column fell on you. Hey, Steve, a crowd gasps in shock as Sideshow Mel declares the emperor to be dead, wondering who will nominate his successor. Majora sees this as an opportunity to speak up.
Friends, Romans, countrymen.
That's me.
We deserve an emperor who can boldly lead us into the future. My son, Bartigula.
He was born rich, so he got to be good at business.
Articula, 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 articula.
And so began the reign of Bartigula the Jerk. Eager to expand the empire, he declared war on Neptune, god of the sea. Despite some early victories, thousands drowned. Bartigula blamed the troubles of Rome on foreign invaders. So he built a large and expensive wall to keep them out.
Och, who needs you, you Carthage-sucking aqueduct guzzlers?
So obviously we're juxtapositioning Donald Trump and Bartigula.
Yeah, not a political podcast, but yeah, I thought it was funny. Cletus saying he's good at business, so be a good ruler.
And then building the wall, of course, which, that wall was built and anyone could go through it because it's not that great of a wall.
Right.
It's more like of a joke of a wall.
And I think the Romans actually had to pay for it, even though they said they weren't going to.
You mean the border between Mexico and America?
Yeah.
The Romans paid for that? Yeah.
I really like Bartigula's war on Neptune.
They're just like stabbing the water.
Yeah, the one guy with the fish just like, take that, Neptune, and then they lose because it's water.
Yeah. Which just a giant wave comes. It's funny. What was that kind of reference to like Trump as well? Wasn't he like saying like, oh, we can like nuke hurricanes or something like that?
That is true, yeah. Yeah, so dumb. It's going to be a rough 4 years.
Yeah.
Also, a fun little thing in that clip is that the foreign invaders of Rome were Asterix and Obelix from the comic Asterix, which I think is French, and everyone's favorite comic, Hagar the Horrible, which lives up to its name every week.
I liked it when I was a kid.
No, it's fine. He had a dog named Snert.
Wow, you know a lot about Hagar the Horrible.
He had a wife named Broomhilda, I think. It was below BC. That's about all I remember.
So as the narrator tells us to silence the critics, Bartigula dissolved the Senate, literally by having acid poured on them, melted them into some green goo. The young emperor, now mad with power and syphilis, tells Romewads that the empire is in crisis and the economy is in the craptorium. And somehow Neptune is still kicking their butts. All of this made him realize that he can no longer be their emperor. So the people sigh with a collective breath of relief. But Bartigula continues telling them that now he is their god. Now I know that this episode is like it's a modge podge of stories, right? Like there's a little bit of Spartacus, there's a little bit of Gladiator, now Caligula. Is there a version? So what I'm trying to say is there a version of this episode with like hardcore sex scenes in it that's been edited out, like the famous 1979 film Caligula?
Oh, I'm sure if you look online, you can find a whole slew of that.
Oh, I've looked online, Steve. I've really looked.
Okay.
And sadly, there isn't.
Aw.
An extended 3-hour cut of this episode with hardcore sex.
Well, listeners, you know what that means. Time to get to work.
We probably have AI make it, right?
Oh, yeah. So the now aptly named Odysseus feels that now is the time to take a stand. So with the help of his slaves, he takes a stand because it's tough for him to get up. He tells the Romans that his son is no god, but rather an entitled little psycho. He tries to rally the people, saying that society must come to its senses and overthrow the madman. The crowd is unsure, and particularly charges his father with blasphemy, sentencing him to be eaten by the lions. And that rascal Raphael points out, poking Odysseus' huge gut, that they're going to need more lions.
The animal or the Detroit ones?
I think the Detroit ones, yeah. If I were a sports guy, I would name any player who's ever been on the Lions, but Deion Sanders, there it is.
Or the second star of the Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. He's always wearing a Detroit Lions jacket or shirt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in the movie, Steve. Because you forget he's from Detroit, Steve, and he's a cop there.
That's right.
And boy, is Beverly Hills so wacky to him. Stay tuned for our Beverly Hills Cop Axel F review on our Patreon podcast that doesn't exist. Well, Odysseus once again finds himself locked up, surrounded by the slaves who were once his peers. They wonder why they're there, and Odysseus explains that he was allowed to bring them some belongings. So Carl sees Semper Frates etched on a wall, reminding them that this is where they made their collective vow of freedom, the one Odysseus referred to honor for 20 years. He then makes a vow to atone for his wrongdoing, and that is met by an unexpected visitor.
Not freeing you guys was the first worst thing I ever did, but I hereby decree you to be emancipated. Now face the dawn as free men.
We're in a jail cell, you dope.
Father, we have to get you out of the city. Hurry, and you can still escape.
No, I'm not going to run.
Because you physically can't?
Yes, mostly. But also because we have to stop Bartigula and save the Republic. Are you fellas with me?
No.
Oh.
Though he had lost everything, Odysseus still had the heart of a warrior.
I mean, it makes sense, right? Odysseus was a dick to his friends, now slaves, their entire life.
Yeah.
They don't need to help him.
They've been in servitude for 2 decades because of him, so yeah. I wouldn't either. I know it's just him being bigger, but I also kind of like that Odysseus kind of looks like, king-size Homer a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of in the moo-moo. Yeah. So, wearing a breastplate that is far too small for his breasts, Odysseus waddles to the stage of battle, ready to fight. In the stands, Bartigula mocks his father, saying that Hannibal is missing an elephant. Defiant, Odysseus hails the living god, saying that those who are about to die salute him. He then turns around and lifts his skirt, exposing his giant ass to his son.
Is that a reference to something? Did they do that in
I want to say Braveheart, but I think that's wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking of Mel Gibson.
Another one of my heroes.
Yeah. Mostly for his violent outburst at his ex-wives.
Yeah, as an actor, not so much, but...
So, Partigula, shocked that Odysseus was bold enough to show his bomb, his moon flaps, is ready to teach the old fool who is the true Gluteus Maximus. Despite his mother's wishes, Partigula leaps into the arena in front of all realm. Father and son engage in a bloody battle, and Partigula leaps over Odysseus, seemingly missing him, but just then, Odysseus' ears fall off, and as the curator describes it, Partigula was fast, but Odysseus was fatter. So, Odysseus uses his massive stomach to knock his eldest child to the ground, gaining the upper hand. So he draws closer to him, brandishing a blade as a crowd chants, "Kill the god!"
Ooh. So Majora shouts to her husband, "Please, spare the boy." But Odysseus, who, as Craig just mentioned, lost both of his ears, replies, "What?" But while he is distracted, Partigula rises to his fight, saying, "Sic semper this, you fat load." And a retractable blade then shoots from his wrist. He stabs his father in the neck. Odysseus responds by saying, "Why, you little," and then chokes Partigula, which is at this point almost quaint, him choking his son.
But it's okay because it's not canon Simpsons, so...
Exactly.
I think Bart can be choked out in Treehouse of Horrors or anything that's not canon.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Episodes. Okay. He could also be choked out in the comics and the extended universe novels.
And in Tapped Out.
And in Tapped Out, right. Actually, I think that is isn't that a mission you send Homer out to do, like a task, like an 8-hour?
I think it is, yeah.
Choke Homer. Choke Bart. No. Oh, also the another bloody scene that matches just like the Rainier Wolfcastle death and the Sideshow Bob death, just like the blood that keeps spurting out of Homer's.
Yeah.
Like when he's strangling Bart. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, Majora cries out, and Odysseus realizes that his life is over. He failed Rome and was less than a perfect father. So as the blood spews from his wound, like I mentioned, he admits that his worst action was screwing over his friends. So he begs the gods for forgiveness as he falls to his death next to his son's lifeless body.
Oof. That's a kind of a beautiful story of like reflection and redemption, because he realizes how wrong he did things all of his life, but then honestly, the worst thing that he did was be a dick to his friends who were like his equals. And yeah, so I like that. Majora runs to her now deceased family, saying that she poisoned everything that she lived with her boundless ambition. She says that her family is no more, as she drinks poison herself to end the pain. And then Lisa runs to her mother, wondering where she fits into the equation. She's like, "What about me?" And Majora tells her daughter that, well, they never really clicked. And our Roman tale comes to an end. But what have the Simpsons learned?
With that, the match was lit that would burn Rome to the ground. 400 years later.
Who knew history could be so sad?
The moral of that story is clear. Marge is wrong and ambition is terrible.
No. The lesson is that the unchecked lust for money and power can bring a once great nation to ruin.
Does anyone think it was weird that Dad killed me?
Don't blame me. Blame your mother.
I just wanted you to go to one lousy training seminar.
Did you not even listen to the old guy story about
When will humanity ever learn to stop letting stupid people into museums?
The answer is never. That's why museums now have to have like interactive things to touch.
That's right.
Stuff to watch on a TV. So
yeah, it's very true.
And beer and wine, like alcohol and
like QR codes, so people can look at their phones instead of seeing like pieces of history. But you know what's funny is that this episode takes place in a museum, and the episode that follows the week after this in season 32, episode 3, is called Now Museum, Now You Don't. And while it doesn't actually take place in a museum, it's Lisa stays home from school to learn about art, and it's another one of these non-canon stories in which 4 separate segments are about different artists. I think there's a Frida Kahlo, Diego episode, one about Leonardo, and so it's all about modern art, or just art in general, Western art. But it's kind of funny that they went from this to that to like have museums. Like, so at this time, the Simpsons were really into learning institutions.
I'd be really pissed if that was the schedule. And I probably was when it came out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is this becoming homework?
Yeah, I think I remember this run. Yeah. And Steve, I'm not laughing.
Oh, me neither.
Because you started the sentence of, you know what's funny.
Oh.
I'm saying, I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I guess it's not really a joke. I mean, I guess I'm a real Sebastian Maniscalco there.
Yeah, you
really are. I just made a premise and I didn't finish it. So yeah, I guess so.
I do like how, they're trying to figure out the moral of the story at the end. And I think the best part was Bart being like, why doesn't anyone care that Dad killed me? Because like, they never talk about how the Simpsons characters are the characters in these like made up stories.
Mm-hmm.
Or not made up stories, but the story tells. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's fun. And so before we talk about what we think, what do the gods above think? And so we've got one last clip to hear their thoughts on this episode.
We're missing the whole point. If Rome had kept worshipping us, everything would have been fine.
Get over it, Dad. You always get so worked up whenever you watch The Mortals.
Can we change the channel? The show sucks now.
Yeah, it's totally gone off the rails since season 2016.
I know, but I want to see how it ends. Definitely feels like they're wrapping it up. Any day now.
So they're watching the TV show The Mortals, which is us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean it started with the birth of Christ? Like they didn't care about the mortals before Christ? Because it's 2016, the Christian calendar. So they didn't watch anything before, which all the Roman stuff happened before Christ. So.
That's true, yeah. So like that's when they started watching. And then they say that it stopped being good around 2016. So I think that's another, thing about Trump.
Yeah.
Because the world went off the rails. So that's kind of funny.
It's like this episode of the Roman Empire is parodying or warning us about the American Empire.
And how it's going to fall, and it could end any day now.
Literally now, yeah. As of this record.
Yeah, it's kind of weird and scary. But we're not a political podcast. And, speaking of wrapping things up, that's our episode. Why don't we take a break, and we'll come back and we'll share our thoughts. We'll be right back.
Rome, you do like the Romans, do you play like the Romans play together? You're all invited, so right this way, you're gonna meet the Roman holidays.
Alrighty, Craig, we're back. Let's finish up our discussion of I, Carumbus. We'll talk about what we liked in the episode, what we didn't like, things that made us laugh. Then we'll talk about our reviews, and then we'll see what we're watching next week. But before we do all that, we like to exchange gifts to one another. And, well, this episode took place in a museum, and I love a museum. So, Craig, I got you a yearly pass to our local Natural History Museum and a box of hot figs so you can eat them and not go to the vomitorium.
I love a fig. I think that's an underrated thing to put in my mouth.
Completely agree.
I like a fig. I like a date, but I wouldn't date a fig. The pass it's great, Steve. Why does it say no stupid people allowed?
Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine.
I don't know. They quiz you. Well, Steve, I got you a gift, but you have to go into your bathroom just to look inside your bathtub, Steve.
Okay.
That's Steve. That white stuff is not my semen. It's donkey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Milk.
Yeah, so you get to take a donkey milk bath when you're done with this podcast.
How many udders did that donkey have?
1.
Okay. That's the kind that I'm used to, too, so.
It was actually an ox, Steve.
I thought the milk tasted familiar.
For some reason, your wife just said, oh, use our bowl. I don't know what that means, so.
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations.
All right, Craig.
Semen joke.
Thank you, Ed. So what made you laugh in this episode, Craig?
I liked the Mr. Plow joke. Of course, the streaming joke, the laundromat, learning about that was some good humor there, Steve. Good humor. But I think more or less the visually, like the deaths were kind of fun, right? Like Homer dragging Rainier Wolf Castle around, and the bloody face was great, and then chopping Sideshow Bob split in half. I think Bart would be very proud of that of that death. Bart's Boron at Poseidon, I thought was great. Those are my top tier jokes. How about you?
The references to Trump were a lot of fun. The wall, Cletus talking about how he's born into money, so he must be good at business. The Neptune joke is probably my favorite joke. I don't know why. It just makes me, it's just really, the visual of that is really funny. I think that if I had to nominate an MVJ, I'm going to give it to Raphael, just because he's a little rapscallion in this episode, like him using a severed hand to play a joke on the slaves to be like, hey, I'm part of you guys. And then joking that Homer would need, they're going to need more lions to feed to Homer because he's so fat. I just like him. And also I like Jasper just hanging out, literally, watching Marge and Homer, Obesius and Majora boink. It's fun.
Oh, I'll give him the MVJ then. So he gets an MVJ for me, and then you can give the MVJ to Raphael.
Nice. Okay, great. So what were your thoughts of this episode as a whole? What do you think?
I'm trying to put the mindset of when this episode aired. And when you brought up the fact that the following week was going to be another type of clip episode, even though this wasn't a clip episode, this was a non-canon storytelling episode. And the production number, though, was F18. So it was the 18th produced. So this could have been the 18th episode of the previous season, which probably would be fine because at that time you're also thinking school and you're learning. So oh man, another lesson I got to learn this week on The Simpsons. It's okay, I'm in school. But now you're coming back to school in September and you want your mind off of school. And then what do? You're Sunday, you're I got to go to school Monday. And then you're watching The Simpsons and it's another history lesson. You're God, 6 days in a row, I've got to learn something. And then also now watching it as an adult in the summertime as a recorder, it's I don't want to learn. I just want to chill and have fun with The Simpsons. And so you see one of their wacky adventures. So for me, watching this episode, it was a chore. The beginning of this episode, it's supposed to be Homer needs to learn to be more ambitious, but in reality, he doesn't learn that lesson. And then we also, with Marge being kind of pissed at Homer not going to that program at work, even they kind of say at the end of the episode that, well, did you learn anything? And they didn't connect with that. I like Cesar's work, but this was his first. Out of the 6 so far, I'm going to say this is my least favorite of his episodes. But look, your first thing is always never your greatest thing. Our first podcast, right? This is not the best. It's obviously the worst.
Yeah.
Get better and better. So I think his episodes will get better and better. And they have. But I just found myself, on the first watch through, I'm just all right. And then second watch through, I'm I'm doing homework. This sucks. I felt very indifferent and very, it just seemed like they was just trying to teach us America sucks. And this is just what it's parodying. But that being said, there was a lot of parodies, besides Gladiator and Spartacus. Even the poster of Carumbus is the parody poster of the 1979 film Caligula, starring, of course, I was going to say Andy McDowell. No, not Andy McDowell. Different movie if it was Andy McDowell. Malcolm McDowell as the Caligula, which, I could see Malcolm McDowell playing an older Bart. He's got that boyish Bart look, I guess. Steve, have you ever seen Caligula, the full version or the edited version at all?
No, I know of it, and I know it's a legacy, but I've never actually seen it.
Steve, are we allowed to review that movie on our podcast? Oh, wait. Gore Vidal, he was on The Simpsons, Steve.
Yes, that's true.
And he was one of the writers of Caligula. So we're allowed, thank God. I have seen about maybe 5 minutes of Caligula, but I got tired and went to bed.
That sounds about right.
And a little hungry, I had a little snack, then I went to bed. No, so the reason why I'm bringing Caligula up is for my ranking. Trying to find the number to give this to, I type in how many people, because there's lots of orgies, and there's an infamous orgy scene in the movie. So I wanted to know how many porn extras in the orgy were. So I was trying to Google that, but it's hard to type in stuff, and then now my Google is going to be an algorithm this guy really wants to know about orgies in Caligula. But I found this one. It says, from grindhousedatabase.com, it says, it is believed that over 2,500 people took part in the making of the movie. That's including actors, extras, carpenters, artisans, and caterers. So not 2,500 people having sex on the movie, but I'm going to assume that's fine. So out of 2,500, I'm going to give this episode a 69.
Nice.
How about you, Steve?
I kind of tend to agree with you. You know, when the Simpsons kind of go off of, like, when they leave Springfield and, travel through time and do these kind of non-canonical episodes, it's always a risk. And I think especially having a full episode dedicated to this Roman Empire is a daring move, especially for a writer writing his first written by credit episode. And I just feel like at the time, especially, like, it makes sense to, talk about how America's in shambles, and it couldn't possibly get any worse than 2020. Because, we're good now. But I think there's a lot of ideas here that don't really connect. Like, the moral that Homer learns in the or that Odysseus learns in the story is to, basically honor your friends, and that was the thing that he rejected most. But that has nothing to do with the real world thing happening with Marge and her annoyance with Homer's lack of ambition. So I think that kind of is a missed kind of connection plot. But also it's kind of weird that they frame Marge as kind of the villain of the story in a way, because she's the one who led Homer to do, or Odysseus to do all the bad things. And, it's weird to see Marge as a villain. We did a couple weeks ago in the baking episode, but I don't know, it just hits weird. And yeah, writing the notes for this and watching it the third or fourth time, it just kind of felt like a slog. And I think, all in all, Cesar Mazariegos has been such a great addition to the Simpsons staff, and he's added a lot, but I think that this one was probably a miss for him, kind of still getting his footing. I didn't love this episode. I think there were some funny parts. I think some elements were good, and I think that the production of it was well done, but it just wasn't for me, and I don't know exactly who it was for. So I'm going to call this probably a skip, and if I had to give it a ranking, so the title, I Carumbus, is a take on I Claudius, which is a BBC show from 1976, an adaptation of Robert Graves' book. It is a very popular drama series that eventually went on to become a Masterpiece Theater anthology. And there are 12 episodes, and so out of 12, I'm going to give this a 2, which is episode 2, Waiting in the Wings. And so Gaius has died and Tiberius has been banished to Rhodes for his treatment of Julia, who in his absence has a series of hedonistic affairs and orgies. And so that's what I'm giving this. 2 out of 12. I would just say that not for me.
Well, I'm glad we agree to agree.
That's right. And, maybe we'll agree next week when we watch another episode. And because we're still in the dregs of summer, we're going to need that good old Wheel of Random to see what we're watching. So why don't we give it a spin to see which season we're in? Ba-doop. All right, we have season 23.
Season 23.
Okay, let's give it another spin to see which episode we are watching. Ba-doop. All right, we have episode 4.
Episode 4.
Season 23, episode 4. Now, Craig, what do you think the title of that episode is?
Well, Steve, of course, we always have to make the title somewhat related to this episode, which, doesn't make sense. I Carumbus, of course, was a play on I Claudius. So I'm going to go and think more Greek, Steve, and think of the great, famous Greek tragedy play by Sophocles, Steve, Oedipus Rex. So I'm going to say this episode is called Oedipus Rex Banning.
Oh.
Remember Rex Banning?
Yeah, in the Beer Baron episode.
Yeah. That's what this episode's called.
I like it. I would watch that episode. But sadly, that is not the title. I'll give you the title. It is what I say when I think about you as a podcast host. Replaceable you.
Oh, I agree. But
good.
Kind of coming with a story, so I'm going to say replaceable you. Is that you like Y-O-U or Y-E-W or just the letter U?
I believe it is Y-O-U, okay. Not like E-W-E or, it's not the tree or the sheep.
Okay. Well, I'll say Replaceable You is about Mr. Burns has had enough of Smithers' shenanigans, and he fires Smithers to get a new assistant. But we've seen Homer be assistant before, so we're not treading that story again. So he hires Lisa. Nope, we've already seen Bart and Burns team up with Lisa. So he hires, we've already seen him team up with Bart, so we'll say Marge, even though she's painted him, but this is different. So Marge has becomes Mr. Burns' new assistant. Meanwhile, the B story, Lisa and Bart fall in a vat of bees. In the C story, Homer drives a Jeep to Lake Tahoe. It's not a really good episode, Steve.
I mean, it sounds fascinating. There's a lot happening. But sadly, that is not what happens. So Replaceable You, which first aired November 6, 2011, Bart's science fair project, a mechanical baby seal, outshines Lisa's brainy asteroid model and becomes a popular pet among the retirement home patrons. Meanwhile, Homer gets a new and eager assistant named Roz, but when he quickly loses his job to her and discovers her evil past, he and Ned team up to reveal her true dark colors.
I was sort of close. There is an assistant involved.
Yeah, that is true. That is very right. And sadly, the assistant Roz, not played by Frasier's Perry Gilpin. No, but we do have a guest star.
Is it Marsha Warfield?
Again, sadly, no. I know.
Is it a store that dresses for less? Oh, that's Roz. Never mind.
Yeah. And no, he wasn't on a break.
Not a paleontologist?
No. Psychopath. No, this was, we get a guest star in Jane Lynch.
The late Jane Lynch?
The very much on time Jane Lynch, because she's still alive.
I think you said the late Jane Lynch.
I may have. But yeah, not married to David, just Jane Lynch herself.
This episode aired in 2011. Was she hot on that singing show Glee? Was that around 2011?
I feel like it may have been, or maybe it was over by then. I don't know. That was in the height of it, because that ran from 2009 to 2015. So yeah, this was in the depths of Glee mania.
Glee. The first 6 episodes were good, and then the rest not so good.
That sounds like Ryan Murphy's career.
Like the first 6 episodes of American Horror Story? You mean like the first season?
Yep. Just most of the things that he does. They're good at first, and then they're not.
Unlike this podcast, where we sucked at first, and then we were good, but now we suck again.
Yeah, but at least, you never know what you're going to get from those annoying grunt boys.
It was much better when we were drinking on the podcast, is what I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably. I mean, at least for us, because we didn't remember it.
Yeah. All right.
But folks...
Let's say bye to people, Steve.
All right. Well, folks, we hope that you remember to listen to us. And hey, if you want, you can contact us. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at 13simpsons@gmail.com or connect to us on the socials like your Instagram, your Threads, or your YouTube at 138simpsons.
And you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast that you listen to, 5 stars or the equivalent, but you don't have to write a real review. No, you can just tell us your favorite Roman orgy. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Steve, you have a favorite Roman orgy, I assume. And hey, please go ahead and call us. Leave a voicemail. You can do that through the show's notes. It'll say, leave a voicemail. You click on it. It'll ring on up and just leave a message. No one picks up. It's just a robot. And we'd like to hear from you. Whatever it is. Give us a joke. Give us a recipe. Just tell us how much you love us or hate us. Whatever. We just want to hear another voice.
Do you want to look great? You want to look like a cool person as, you're heading into summer? Well, go to tpublic.com/user/annoyedgruntboys and get yourself some cool Annoyed Grunt Boy swag. You can get the classic 1-8 Simpsons podcast shirt. You can get the Barflyers of Springfield shirt with Moe's face, the Sousa Metallica sticker, the world's lamest comic, Tyranny is Job 1, which we released around the time of when this episode aired. We have Penis Can Kill. We've got so many shirts or stickers or whatever you want. Just TeePublic, they have it all.
Did you say penis can kill?
I mean, they can. That's what's funny about them is they can create life and they can also end it. But peanuts can kill.
Oh, yeah. Charlie Brown. Right.
Exactly. Snoopy, that killer. All right. Thank you so much for listening. For this week, I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Steve.
And I've been Annoyed Grunt Boy Craig.
And remember, I had Sexicus.
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 I had Sexicus. You jerks! You knew I liked her!